Sometimes you got to dig deep. Sometimes you got to look in the glass and you got to ask yourself, how much do I want this? Why did I show up today? Why did I want to put it all on the line? What are my goals and what am I willing to do to reach them? I want you to look at me and I want you to repeat. SmartLess. Smart, less, smart, less, smart, less. Let's go!
Smart. Less. Smart. Less. Smart. Less.
Are we rolling, Jimmy?
Shawnee.
Yeah.
Sean.
Sean.
Yes. Wait, you guys, this is crazy that you're speaking in British accents. Go ahead.
Why? What are you doing?
I know, mate. I know.
Wait, Sean, are you in London?
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm not.
Well, Jason's not. Neither of you got. Both of that's terrible.
No, that's great.
It's going to be so
Fucking
insulting to our guest, but wait, let's
course.
get...
Of course.
Oh, is our guest British? Oh
yeah.
no.
Well, what made you
Sorry.
think that? The 50 times that he went like, I don't know.
Wait, what were you going to say?
Shawnee, next week, I know we shouldn't do this on the podcast, but dinner in New York, yes, Tuesday?
Guys, what are we doing? What are we
You're not
doing?
doing anything.
Yeah.
You're staying in LA.
I'm home.
Yeah, Tuesday
100%.
in New York dinner,
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
hold
I'll
on,
put it
listener.
down.
We're making plans.
Okay.
You guys have your Rolodexes out? You want to wait for that or enter it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to talk about golf?
No, I'm not going to make plans with my buddy on the listener's time.
Hey, what are the
or
rules?
the guest's
Jay, why don't you
time.
come out and join us?
Finally come out.
No, because I'm married. I have 2 children, and it would just be too disruptive.
But they won't notice.
Oh, to New York. To New York.
To New York.
I already tried to get him to come to New York. And he just gave a classic Jason, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, hurt my feelings.
And I apologize for that. I've had long discussions with my wife over the last 12 hours. And what I need to work on is checking in with other people that are associated with the plan that might not see it through the prism of one.
There you
so
go.
maybe ask them what they would like.
Right.
And then, because I just think, well, they're asking my opinion, so it's just about me. How do I personally, my personal opinion is, no, I wouldn't like to do that. But if I check in with you, I might change that,
Right. If you go like, or you maybe, and you can, even before you check in, you can go like, hey, maybe this is something that somebody else wants. And it's not just, I don't want, I want, I don't want, I want.
Yeah.
And you go like.
There's a we in this world.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great note, and I think I'm learning it just in time at 54.
Jay, do you want to go out to dinner next week?
Yeah, no, thanks.
Old dog, new
I'm
trick.
not going to be in town, but if you guys want to zoom me in from the table,
We sure
I'll,
do.
That would be a ride.
I'd love to watch you
Wait,
guys
I
shoot.
want to say one thing. As you know, SmartLess Media launched Bad Dates, which is out
Yes.
right now with Jamila Jamil,
Yeah.
which
It's a
is
great
fantastic.
show. It's
Hilarious.
a great show.
But we have a new.
And Just Jack and Will launches June 22nd.
Well, I wanted to say that so that you didn't have to promote your own show.
I don't know.
No, sorry, it's Will.
It's
Will,
our
you're
show.
doing
It's
it.
our show.
No,
Will,
no,
who's
no.
you and Jack Black are doing a podcast?
No, you
No.
dummy. It's the characters Jack and Will from Will and Grace. So it's Sean Hayes and Eric McCormick doing,
and we're doing a
just
rewatch
Jack and
podcast.
Will. And it's a rewatch podcast of Will and Grace. Sean, I'm getting to it. I want to say it so you don't have to.
Thank
so
you,
you
thank
can
you, thank
take in all the praise you
Thank you.
deserve.
Thank
Do you
thank
want to know what I'm most excited about with that podcast? Is that
Saying
neither-
no to coming on?
My daughters.
Saying no to everything.
actually, here. Listen, I think this means I'm coming on. My daughters, your good friends and mine,
I love
Franny
them.
and Maple,
Mhm.
16 and 11, have never seen Will and Grace, and they're bananas about you. So
Okay,
I just keep thinking, wait till they see you do your thing. And so this is going to give us a great chance to start watching the show together.
Yeah, that's a great.
And then listening to the podcast, doing the rewatch, and then coming on. Maybe I'll bring them both on, and we'll give you notes.
That would be so fun.
because you guys aren't locked yet on those episodes, right? If we give
We're
you some
recording them
notes-
now. We've recorded a bunch
very
already.
locked.
No,
They're
sorry,
very
the
locked.
Will and Grace episodes. If we give you notes, you can.
Oh no,
you guys
yeah, we can go
adjust
back and reshoot.
performance.
We can reshoot
Yes.
stuff. Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So it
it'll
won't be
match.
wasted. Good.
It'll match. By the way, it's the 25th anniversary of Will and Grace this year.
Is that
The
right?
silver anniversary.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah,
Is that
25 years ago.
You know what, Shawnee? JB and I saw Jimmy Burrows yesterday.
Yes.
Oh no way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where?
At playing golf, he was playing with Al Michaels, our other good friend.
He said, "Say hi to Shane. I think you guys are
said,
doing
"Say
a
hi to
great
Shane."
job on the
He
show."
said, Shane, I loved working with Shane.
Yeah,
And for,
he was the
for all
best.
those
I'll never
years-
forget him. He said,
I'll never, yeah. He said, I'll never forget him.
"Shane's the best."
And we
And by
we
the
said,
way-
he said, I'll never forget him. We said, who? And he said, what? You know what I mean?
So Tracy, that's the director of Will and Grace.
Well,
Yeah.
he's a friend and you know.
Yes, but
a
it-
guest
And
Yes,
directed
on the
every
podcast.
episode of Will and Grace. As
Do
everyone
not
knows.
listen to his episode. Just know he's yes.
So I want to get done with this so we can get to our guest because
Okay.
he's been so kind to wait. So it premieres on June 22nd. It's all new episodes are out every week, or here a week early on Amazon or the Wondery app, and it's super exciting and it's really really fun. I'd never watched the show really after being on it because my excuse was like I was there. Like I
You didn't
was
watch
there.
it when it was on for America?
I didn't really. I mean, I
Really?
remember like bits and pieces, but Eric watched it a little too much. So
Yeah.
it's really fun to do the show with him. Anyway, it's just Jack and Will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our guest today makes me laugh so much. He's actually born the same year as me, which means he's born the same year as Will. As well.
53-year-old man from England.
Yes, I consider him British royalty since he's such a major figure in the comedy world and sci-fi, which, as you know, is royalty to me. He undoubtedly has both Spielberg and Tom Cruise on speed dial.
Oh, I know
But
who
his
it is.
greatest achievement
Who
is
is it?
reaching the holy grail of nerdom status. That's a real thing,
Let's hear
or
it,
the
Will.
nerd trifecta, as some people call it. This happens when you have portrayed prominent characters on Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Star Wars. Guys, it's the brilliant Simon Pegg.
I knew it was going to be Simon.
Simon!
I knew it was Simon.
Hello,
I knew
friend.
it. I knew
Hello,
it.
Will, you didn't have that, Will.
I did. I knew it was Simon.
Why didn't you say it?
I don't know. I was just. It was.
Yeah.
You didn't want
but
to
isn't
spoil
that
it.
crazy? You
Come
guys
on.
started talking in British accents.
Listen to those pipes.
I thought they were
Wait,
really good.
Listen to that
No, you
speaking
didn't.
voice, Simon.
I know.
Good Lord.
Hey, Simon. Hey, man. Great to see you.
Hey. You too. I'm such a fan of this podcast. I feel kind
No,
of
you're not.
it's strange being on
You've
it.
never
with you.
heard
No,
it. It's
and
okay.
I've never met you.
I
and-
absolutely have. I have. Oh, then Sean, we've never met, and I just want to say I'm a big Sean Hayes fan.
well, likewise, I'm massive.
By the way, before we get going on all of that, I want to say, Simon, I see over your right shoulder Spaced, which
Yeah.
was the show that
Yeah.
you and Edgar did. And I want to talk about Spaced. I loved, as you know, and I've told you, I've embarrassed you before, how much I loved Spaced. And
Oh, thank you.
for a number of reasons. But walk me through a little bit, because that was your guys' first, like, a big thing that you all got to, you and Edgar
And Nick Frost.
And Nick, too. Nick
Yeah.
wasn't really an actor before that, right? Simon, I remember you telling me this story once years ago.
No, he was a waiter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I moved to London with my girlfriend, and she went to work at this Mexican restaurant called Chiquitos. I don't know if you've ever eaten Mexican in London. It's amazing.
They're known for it.
She she came home from work.
I think
and
it's
said,
where guacamole started.
It actually is where it's invented, Cricklewood. He's really funny, and he wants to be a stand-up. And I was kind of dabbling with stand-up at the time, and we sort of we met, and he was the funniest human being I know. And
Yeah.
he tried stand-up. It didn't really fit for him. He couldn't quite sort of convert his hilariousness into a routine.
Yeah.
But we got Spaced, and I said, look, well, come and be in this TV show with me, and we can hang out. And he had this character he'd come up with, this army guy called Mike, and we wrote it into the show and convinced the producers that he was an actor, which he wasn't. And I think there was another guy called Nick Frost on our sort of equity, so they looked him up and said, yeah, he checks out. And and that's how he got into the show and how he started his
Wow,
career.
that's amazing.
And then you, what happened with you and Edgar? Like, how did you guys get that show off the ground?
Jessica Hines and I, who wrote it,
Jessica,
I'd
of
worked with
course.
Edgar before, and he was like the only guy that we could imagine who could sort of make the show. And he came along and we put it together, and he showed us all his kind of storyboards and stuff, and we were kind of just blown away because, you know, Edgar's got this incredible vision, and we took it to Channel 4, and they this is a really, we were so lucky, you know, it was a time when you could sort of just pitch something and they go, yeah, sure, let's do it. And we were on right after Friends, and, you know, it was this strange sort of, you know, slightly surreal show, but it really found its audience. And that was where the idea for Sean kind of came about, and where our sort of relationship began. So yeah, that was the beginnings of it all.
Do you know the number of things that you, Nick, and Edgar have done together?
I could probably count them, but it might be boring for the podcast.
No, let's do it.
Less than a
One,
dozen?
two.
Probably, well, we did Spaced, and then 3 Cornetto films, and then we did Tintin.
Tintin, that's
so
right.
yeah, like 5 or 6, I guess.
That's
And we've done other
amazing.
stuff as well.
I wanted to ask you about, because you know, your credits, you know, like talk about fandom. Yeah. I'm like a creepy stalker fan of yours because you're in everything I love, right? So you're like the fandom you're associated with by default. How often do you check? Because you're not on social media, like you're not on anything. How often do you check in to see what's being said, if anything, or do you avoid the internet? Because you have those iconic stories that you constantly tell from everything you're working on, but you have no outlet to put them. So people must just be like, you know, salivating.
Well, I've got an Instagram now,
Oh, you do?
and I follow SmartLess. That's more like you guys.
What?
Yeah,
What a
I
great-
was kind of upset when I
What
saw
are we
you.
saying?
Oh, we'll follow back.
What have we been saying on there?
Yeah, what?
Terrible things.
But you do you ever like look at what people are saying, or do you not? You're like, I don't care. I'm not.
Sometimes I was on Twitter for a while, and then I left that because it just felt like a party where everybody was drunk and angry. And
Yeah.
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 I sort of checked out of that. I've kept the account just for sort of info.
Twitter's like my house growing up, just drunk and angry.
I remember you and Nick, and the reason I got the person who showed me who actually set up my Twitter account, physically did it on my phone, was Pete Serafinowicz.
Oh, was it Pete?
Yeah, and we were in Vancouver, and I was arguing against it. It was like 2009, 2009 or 10 or
What
something.
month? What month?
It was actually
Yeah.
No, Simon, he knows this stuff.
It's crazy.
it's no joke. I'm
Yeah,
not
okay,
joking.
Just give him 2 seconds. He'll drop it.
It was February 2010.
That's crazy. It probably was. It
It
probably
just
was.
inverts me every time.
It definitely was.
Simon, so you're born in 1970 on Valentine's Day. Before I get into
I was.
all your career stuff, because I can't wait, do you have any crazy story about hooking up on Valentine's Day, which is your birthday, and it turning into something?
If it's a bad date, save it for our sister podcast,
Yeah.
Bad Dates.
No, I spoke to Jamila about doing that, but I
Really?
don't have any bad dates really. I
Really?
couldn't think of anything that would make the podcast fun.
That's
My,
fine.
the mailman who delivers my birthday cards thinks I'm a stud, obviously, but otherwise, you know.
Because you get everything.
Really.
That's hysterical. All right,
We
so you were
should do
born.
it. I thought Bad Dates was more about like December 7th, 1941.
Jesus. That's so stupid.
That was a bad date.
That is so dumb.
That was a terrible date.
Wait, so you were born Simon Beckingham, but why Peg?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, my mum remarried. My parents split up. My dad, I kept in touch with my dad, which was good.
There's a difference.
Sorry to gloat, Sean. See, I do listen to the podcast.
Simon, I think your dad just had a slower car. That was all.
By the way, if your dad runs into my dad, let me know.
They're good friends.
Yeah.
When my mum remarried, I remember I was 7, and I remember thinking I don't want to have a different name to my mum. And she married Richard Pegg. And I just made that decision. I thought, I want to have the same name as my mum. I don't want her to come into my school and them to say, hello, Mrs. Beckingham, and her have to correct the teacher. I remember making that little calculation when I was a kid, which is a strangely adult.
Will, do you have a...
Sean,
do you-
well, I was going to say that, Sean, didn't you one time say on the podcast, hey, to anybody out there, if you happen to run into my dad, make sure to reverse and run into him again?
By the way, we were going to talk about this a while ago. Total sidebar.
Sure.
My dad showed up to Goodnight Oscar in Chicago.
What?
What?
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah,
this.
isn't that crazy?
Well,
But he didn't come backstage or anything. I didn't see him.
well, I guess he didn't like the show.
He probably hated
That's
it.
very
No,
strange.
isn't that what you're supposed to infer?
No, and then he showed up on my sister's Facebook and said, "I love the show."
Yeah, but he said something weird.
He said something like Oscar Levant, just like I remembered him.
Yeah.
But no, like that's my son.
Oh, so he was like humble bragging.
Not my son, just like I remembered him.
That's my son.
He's got a clearer memory of Oscar Levant than he does of you.
He doesn't remember you waving from the window.
Yeah.
You should show up to his house as Oscar Levant and go, "How have you been?"
Oh my God.
Twitching.
It's not funny.
Okay, but wait, this is what's so cool. I love this. I did this exact same thing as you, Simon. So
I doubt
you
it.
started acting at like 16. You went to Stratford upon Avon, but you to study English literature and theater. But as a boy, you would listen to John Williams scores, and I used to listen to them all the time. And so did my husband Scotty. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, he's the greatest. It was one of my most sort of my proudest moments, I think, ever of my career was with Tintin, was seeing my name come up on the screen and then music by John Williams.
Yeah, that's
come
insane.
up, which because for me I used to listen to it and imagine myself in movies, and it was the soundtrack to my childhood. I loved him. I still do. He's the most incredible composer.
Scotty and I go every year to the Hollywood Bowl to watch him conduct with the lightsabers. Did you have you ever been there? It's insane.
Oh, I wish I had.
Oh, you got to come.
boy.
You got
You're
to
just
come.
going to alienate Jason and Will now.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, inverted again. John Williams plays a few holes of golf every day at 4:00.
Still?
where
He's
Will and I play.
91, right?
Yeah, he drives down the hill in his golf cart and he hits it a few times and that's his routine.
And he said, we saw him about 2 weeks ago, and could just barely hear him say, "If you see Sean Hayes, tell him he's an asshole."
That's interesting.
We weren't sure, but
We were
pretty
like,
sure that's
fuck,
what it
is that-
was.
Is that what he just tell him to stop nerding out about my music? He sounds like a fucking loser. Stop
I know,
fucking
I'm like-
mentioning it. Stop identifying his entire fucking life based on my fucking music to my movies, and get a fucking life and have some real life experiences other than talking about fucking nerd movies.
Wow, you had a lot to say. Was that in between holes?
That's all I
or-
caught. He kept going.
Wait, Simon, do you have a favorite John Williams score?
The Empire Strikes Back,
Oh, yes, of course.
without a doubt.
Of
It's my
course.
favorite.
I love that. I love
Is
that.
that held up as one of the all-time greats in that sort of in the John Williams canon?
I think so. I mean, it's got so many sort of classic themes on it, and it's the first time we heard the Imperial March and Han and Leia and all these sort of incredibly. It's just a beautiful, beautiful score.
Yeah,
That's pretty much mutually agreed that that's the best of the Star Wars movies, right?
absolutely.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah,
And there
Really?
have been, 9?
I can't remember now.
wanna say.
There's been a lot.
Well, 77, it was 80. It was like
They did
we were, Simon,
trilogy.
you and I and Will were like 10 or 11.
Three
Can I just say
trilogies.
this? Can I just say I hope they make 9 more?
You know what? They probably will.
They
probably
are.
will.
They are.
I saw
Sadly.
the first one in 1977, and if we've talked about this with somebody else, I saw the first one 4 times in the theater. It's the only time I've
Yeah.
ever seen. And then I stopped because, I got older. Hey, so let me just.
Okay, so
Simon,
wait.
I want to go back. Hang on, I do
Well, you
want to.
turned 8?
I turned 8. And once I turned 8, I was like, what am I fucking doing? I'll never get laid.
Oh, my
So-
God.
So,
I can't wait to talk to you about Star
Simon,
Wars, but
I
go ahead.
remember before we met, which was many, many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
Galaxy.
If
far,
you remember,
far
I
away.
picked you up somewhere and you were staying at L'Hermitage, and we went over there and had
That's
a drink. That was
right.
the first time we hung out.
I remember because I'd seen Edgar had told me about Arrested Development, and I'd resisted it for a while. I kind of, when you're
Same.
sort of in comedy, and I know you've resisted it forever, Sean. But I was like, you kind of resent stuff when you're told it's good.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Edgar's
yeah.
like, you've got to see this show. It's incredible. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a look. And I sort of didn't.
Yeah.
And
A dozen
then
of those.
Eventually, I kind of, I begrudgingly watched it, and I just sort of like, sometimes as a funny person, you watch comedy like somebody watching a physics lecture. You just sort of nod,
Waiting
and
to not
smile,
like it. Yeah.
This is it. This is it. This is why the fuck do anything ever again? This is too fucking good.
Jason and I, at one of our Sunday dinners, sat down and pretty much almost all the same things neither Jason and I have seen. It's like a list that we both made.
And it's not because
exactly the
I
same.
don't want to.
No,
I feel
exactly.
overwhelmed to
Yes,
get
same.
started.
Well, sometimes
like-
it feels like homework, which is a bummer.
It comes with a slight pressure, doesn't it?
It does
Yeah.
come with pressure, and then
Yeah.
because and you have shows that are really good that our mutual friends have done, and you're like, "Fuck, I should watch it." Everybody says it's great,
Yeah,
and
it's a
part
lot
of
of
you is
work.
like, "I don't want to watch it." Also, I don't want to have an opinion in case I run into them. It's like. It's like going to see somebody on Broadway, and then after the show, you got to go up and you got to be like, "Yeah, you were great, Sean." Like whatever, just for lack of another
Whatever his
name.
name might be.
But you've got to say whatever the name of the person is. You've got. But wait, Simon, Sean was. By the way, if you're in New York, go see it. I'm not joking. I have to say, all bits
I'm going to be.
aside,
I'd love to come, Sean. Honestly, I'm going to be there with Mission in July.
Oh,
he's-
great. Come.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's incredible.
You're sweet.
But Simon, we first met, and I had just seen Shaun of the Dead, and that movie for me stands out. And I've watched it recently with my kids, and it's holds up because it's legitimately great
That's a
and
great
funny.
one to see with the kids.
Yeah, and I found it so inspiring at that time. I felt like you guys were doing something that not a lot of other people were doing. It was smart and it was silly and it was really tight.
Whenever I saw you, Will, whenever that movie came out, it's all you talked about to me all the time. For real.
For real. I still hold it up as such a great. Every moment of it, the writing is really good. It's really well shot. It's really well directed. It's really incredibly acted. Like every single moment of it, man. And that must have been such a huge turning point for you,
Yeah, for sure.
Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it absolutely was because it we got some sort of exposure over there, and a lot of sort of cool kind of directors came into bat for Edgar, and we managed to get a theatrical release over there thanks to Ain't It Cool News, Harry Knowles' website. And,
wow.
And so coming over, and not to sort of bat it back to you guys, but I kind of felt the same thing about Arrested. It was like these guys. We always say, Nick and I always say, people know something. If you see someone who gets it, who is kind of, you feel like they're the same kind of person as you, we say, hey, they know something. And it was you guys were just doing something that was just so that, and it was inspirational. And I always, and also, Sean, not to leave you out, I always thought on watching Will and Grace, because you always kind of, not to embarrass you, but you always stole that show, I thought.
For sure.
And
100%.
I always thought, I'm sure he knows something, because Will and Grace was a big, it was a network comedy. It was massive. It wasn't sort of an alternative kind of thing, even though it was an incredibly progressive show. And then you popped up on like Portlandia or something, and I was like, yes, I knew it. I knew he knew something.
Yeah, I love that show.
By the way,
That's very
it's
sweet,
so funny you say
Simon.
that, and it's so true, Sean. You did steal that show all the
Well,
time.
I
amongst
consider it an ensemble,
amongst
but
a
yes.
bunch of scene stealers, you were a scene stealer. I remember Nick. Nick has one of those. I hold Nick as one of those guys. He's so naturally Frost. He's so naturally funny. And one time,
And
he
just
I-
for really quick, for Tracy, Nick Frost is a comedian and actor.
Collaborator,
Hot
longtime
Fuzz,
collaborator
Paul,
with
The
Simon,
World's
yeah.
End, Your
Hot
Bestie.
Fuzz, my God, what
Yeah.
a great movie.
Hot Fuzz, and we were one time standing outside this restaurant in L.A. and I was having a cigarette with Nick, and there were these two like really douchey guys. I don't know if this story will translate. Standing right there, and as we walked, they were just having the worst L.A. conversation. As we went inside, Nick goes, "All right, talk to you later." To the complete
He
strangers.
didn't even know them.
Didn't know them. We hadn't talked to them at all. And as he's opening the door, he just looked at them and went, "All right, talk to you later."
That's so funny.
Fuck me. And it was so naturally funny. And it made me laugh. Like driving home, it made me laugh. Like I kept thinking about it.
Will, you love that
He's the
dry
best.
sense of humor, that British sense of humor. Was there a lot of that up in Toronto? It being British colony at one point, like
Maybe,
kind of in the
maybe.
culture
I don't know.
up there?
I was always a fan. I know I've been accused of being an Anglophile for many years, and I do enjoy. I just think that there's something to, when I was 17, I saw Withnail and I the first time, and I was like, this is the kind of shit I like. And it's and I don't
such a
know. It's
great
always
film.
just seems smarter. And again, I know so many funny, smart, amazing American.
The
but it's-
style of that just never asks for a laugh.
no.
Right.
It
No,
makes
you're
it-
right. Yeah.
You just go right.
I heard
past
you
it.
once describe your and Nick's relationship to My Fair Lady or something. Like, what's the comparison? What is that?
Yeah, he was like this kind of like rough around the edges oik. And I was this university graduate who'd moved to London from Bristol and found him in a Mexican restaurant and taught him in the ways of, high culture.
Very
Sure.
funny.
I mean, Nick was, he was like he would be the first to say he was like a little thug. But he was just so gifted, so funny in a way that still to this day he makes me laugh. Like, when I listen to you guys, it reminds me of my relationship with Nick and Edgar, just because it just runs on laughter and it never gets tiring or boring. It's constantly hilariously funny.
Well, and respect, like massive respect.
Yeah.
We had a big dinner years ago. By the way, you're going to fucking freak out when I tell you this. You guys are going to be so bummed out because I think it was November 2005. And
I mean, I can't.
in London, remember we had that big dinner with a bunch of us, Simon, and it was me and Amy and you guys and Darren Brown, the magician.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Fuck, that was a long time ago. And I think did I tell this story about saying whether or not you could be hypnotized? Did I tell this hypnotized?
No.
So we were at this big dinner, and Simon and I guess Darren wanted to come. He was a fan of Arrested Development because he's a magician or whatever. And there were a bunch of guys there. Who else is there?
He wanted to meet an illusionist.
Yeah, he did. Joe Cornish, I think, was there. A bunch of them. And Pete and. I asked around the table, I said to Darren Brown, the hypnotist, magician, whatever, I said, can you tell if somebody's really susceptible to being hypnotized and being persuaded? And I said, everybody go around the table and say whether or not you think because he sort of said, yeah, I can kind of tell. And so everybody went around the table, and I remember I said, like, I definitely could be persuaded to do probably anything. Yeah. And we ran around, and everybody had different answers. But I remember Amy Poehler at the time going, there's no way. You can't get me. Just in that very Amy way. She's like, no way. There's no way. Very Boston. Like, no way. No fucking way. You can't persuade me anything. And we're at this really fancy restaurant in Mayfair. The check comes, and Amy looks at me and goes, we got this. And I go, what do you mean we got this? It's like 3,000 pounds. I'm like, it's an expensive dinner. She's like, no, we got it. So we're in the cab on the way back to the hotel, and I go, he got you. Darren Brown, he convinced you to pick up the check. And then she looked at me and she goes, do you think? And I go, fuck yeah.
It would be great if she turned to you and said, wait, I paid for the check?
Did I ever tell you that, Simon?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I find it, he's weird to be around, Darren, because you're constantly worried that he might do something strange to your mind.
Yeah.
So, Simon, your level of astonishment is greater on the sets of Star Trek or Mission Impossible? As far as execution, scope of production?
Probably Mission Impossible.
Yeah, right.
Just because of the stuff that Tom Cruise does, that we are witness to on the day of him jumping off a cliff on a motorbike or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that just sort of, it is genuinely terrifying.
Right, and your stunt crew and safety crew and second unit, all that stuff, that just must be like rocket scientists.
Yeah,
right?
hundreds of, cameras on when we did the bike stunt, which is in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, there was a take he did where there were cameras mounted on the bike he was riding. So when he jumped off it, the bike just sort of cartwheeled away and caught him every time it span. Oh. And then they had to go down into the bottom of this quarry and find the bike and retrieve the cameras and find which ones were still working. And sure enough, they picked up this incredible footage of him just sort of like disappearing upwards as the bike fell away.
The degree of difficulty on all departments of those movies is just insane.
That's so great. By the way, I just found yesterday that I've actually got a second unit.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
So it was super tiny. You just discovered it.
But it counts.
So wait, listen, I want to talk about, so Mission Impossible 3, JJ just called you out of the blue. JJ Abrams just called you out of the blue and offered you the part.
He did.
Because of Shaun of the Dead, right?
Because of Shaun. Me and Edgar were writing Hot Fuzz, and the phone rang, and it was J.J. Abrams, and he just sort of literally said, hey, do you want to come and be in Mission Impossible 3? And I said, yeah, okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, why not? And I didn't know.
Let me finish. I'm just at me mates. Let me finish.
I was kind of, in the same way, he emailed me about Star Trek and just said, do you want to play Scotty? I think he got bored of looking for someone and just thought, I get that other guy that I got last time.
Wow. I mean, it is unusual to be it is unusual to be part of two such big kind of iconic franchises that are very different.
Yeah.
Unless you're Harrison Ford.
Unless you're Harrison Ford, that's right.
Yeah, Harrison Ford
You
is
know,
the king.
You're the British Harrison Ford. I've heard that before.
Thank you.
Would you say your biggest regret was hiring Bateman for Paul?
That was a huge regret.
Let's get to Paul.
I was listening to Hader the other day on the podcast talking about those jalapeno shooters, and you weren't there that day. It was me, Nick, and Hader, and they gave us these tequila shots with jalapeno juice, and we shat lava the next day.
Oh my God.
I'm glad you weren't there for the sake of your bottom.
He doesn't remember where he was yesterday, so that's the good news. But you,
Do you remember when we gave you a Teen Wolf 2 poster at the
Yes.
annual rap gift?
I do.
We all signed it.
I do remember that. I was very warmed by that.
where is it? Where is it, Jason?
I sold that.
Binned.
Yeah.
Binned. Immediately binned. Jay, get that framed. How unbelievably rude.
No, I think it came framed. Maybe.
It was framed.
Yeah.
But then you
it was all
unframed it. I
proper.
thought you told me you unframed it.
It's you just sell it easier.
use the
if it's
frame for
rolled up
something
in-
else.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to go back. So in 2009, you completed the second installment of your nerd trifecta, which again is a real thing, with Star Trek. Who helped you with your Scottish accent? Was it hard? Like, do you have Scots in your family?
Yeah, I'm married to a Scot and a
know
Glaswegian.
that.
So her dad helped me a lot.
Sean's
with
married to
my-
a Scot too.
Yeah. There you go.
Hey,
Nice, nice.
buddy.
Lovely. Hello there. I got help from the family on that because they're the first people to. Although they kept trying to make me put like tawdry little Scottish rudeness into the script. And I did
really?
actually try a few things, but JJ came up to me and said, "Simon, they've got to understand what you're saying."
Let's hear just a little bit
The
of it.
rudest thing you could say in Scottish.
I do actually say there's a famous Scottish Glaswegian saying, which is "get to fuck." If instead of like, shut up or get out of it, it's get to fuck. And in the first Star Trek, I do actually say to Deep Roy, who plays my little wingman, you hear me go, get to f-. And I don't. So anyone who's Scottish would know exactly what I was about.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, wow. That's crazy. And then you got to write one, like in 6 months.
Yeah, that was.
How did you get to
that was
write?
that was like someone giving you the keys to a really, really expensive car. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, just because we had no time. And Justin Lin, who was the director, who's a brilliant, brilliant guy, but he's not a verbal communicator, and it was really hard to understand what he wanted at first. Like, he used to drive
And
me
just so people
insane.
know, it's Star Trek Beyond. Sorry. go
Star
ahead.
Trek Beyond, yeah. And myself and Doug Jung, we wrote that script together, but it was loads of fun. And Doug came to stay with me in the UK, and we'd write during the day, and then at night we'd watch episodes of the original series just to try and get little Easter eggs to put in. And we eventually ended up. Weirdly, it was the first time I'd faced the idea of being rewritten by someone else. And
That's wild.
we'd worked really hard on it, and then our producer Lindsay called and said, "We're going to get some fresh eyes on the script." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I'd never experienced that before, and I was so incensed and angry that, how dare you,
Right.
kind of thing. I come from my cushy little British filmmaking background.
Well, Sean's mom used to get fresh eyes about every 2 months, right? Is that right?
But what we did was Justin Lin would send us the rewrites, and then Doug and I would secretly rewrite them and then send them back to Justin, and then Justin would deliver them to Paramount as his notes. So we would secretly rewrite the rewrites. If you're listening to this, Paramount, then it all worked out okay at the end, sure.
That's fucking great.
Yeah.
What a great way to rig the system in your favor.
Yeah, that's wild.
And-
I just can't
Did you
believe-
get rewritten at all on Paul?
No.
No.
And it shows.
No. it doesn't. No, the Lorenzo.
No, we didn't. We were lucky.
What was the Lorenzo Zoil?
Lorenzo Zoil, that was your...
Lorenzo
When we came up with
Zoil,
your character name, we took the day off. It was the deepest cut.
That's enough brilliance for the
It
day.
was Nick's idea, Lorenzo Zoil.
Right, and then how do I reveal that? Like, aren't I being at least near the end of the movie, right? Like under the spaceship or something?
Your reaction to that, I'm not just saying that, your reaction to that is one of the most supreme comedy double takes I have ever witnessed in
'Cause, like-
any comedy forum.
Well, wasn't the joke that like it was the first time I'd really heard it said, and I was like, oh fuck.
What?
We go, Agent, you say something like, thank you, Agent Zoil. You go, call me Lorenzo. And we go, Lorenzo Zoil? And you go, yeah. And then you sort of do this, like you suddenly heard it for the first time. And it's just fucking sublime, Jason. It really is. It really just, it's just textbook.
It's not surprising
Brilliant.
that I remember little of that because I think it was a night shoot, if memory serves.
It was a night shoot, yeah. We were up on the ski bowl with Sigourney Weaver.
In Taos, as Kristen Wiig used to call it.
Taos, that's right.
So Edgar Wright, who we've already established is one of your besties and does a lot of stuff. I didn't know this. I didn't know he wrote and directed Baby Driver. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie so
Really?
much.
I mean, that is a masterpiece.
He had that script for a long time, yeah.
And I heard you do somewhere an impression of him. Can you do just a little bit of Edgar Wright?
He'll listen to this and he'll kill me.
He does listen to it.
His voice is quite high.
That's terrible.
He gets quite drunk and he's talking in your ear quite loud.
Edgar has a right to come on the show now himself. And
We got to get him on the show. He
defend
does.
himself.
He does send me reviews of episodes sometimes and via text.
Well, Edgar, my phone
I
number's
could-
still the same. Where's my text?
Not reviews, but he'll say, "I really enjoyed it." You know.
I could listen to you do that for 9 hours.
And Nick does it really well as well.
It's very high.
It's kind of like a pterodactyl.
Oh my God.
But he is, I mean, I've counted one of the luckiest moments of my life meeting Edgar just because he is such an extraordinary talent. And, I love him to bits. So I'm sure he'll forgive me for
Doing his voice quite like this.
I remember like it was yesterday, although I'm not sure of some of the details, but I'm pretty sure it was a screening of Hot Fuzz that believe you were there with me, Willie, that we got invited to, and I met you and Nick and Edgar, and Edgar, or you, all you guys had loved Arrested Development. Like, that's why we were there. That's how we got invited. And then I remember that as being one of the first times that I thought,
you know what it was?
Show
You know what,
this show
Jason?
is being seen by cool folks.
Simon, I think you're thinking the same thing I am. It was a screening of the movie that you did with Mike Judge.
Oh, yeah, it was
It was the screening
was-
of
Extract. Really?
Extract.
And
Yeah, that's it.
Simon, did we go together or something? Where we met up there with Edgar or something?
That's right. And then afterwards we were in the bar and it was you, me, Amy, and you guys and Amy and me. And there was I remember there was some paparazzi shots of us all kind of like hanging off each other and smiling and drinking. And I remember being really
Was
chuffed.
I drinking?
I don't know. I was still drinking at that time.
No, you weren't. Jason, you were not.
No.
That was a while.
No, I was still on it in those days. But
No, well, Paul's when you got sober, right? Around that time.
just after Paul, I was pretty drunk through Paul. But it was like the year after that I got sober.
For you.
Good for you, yeah. I have to fan out because I'm not gonna. I have
Go,
to
Sean.
So Star Wars universe and Star Wars world and like growing up was that surreal, getting like invited into that world, and then like, being around Carrie Fisher and all of those people. And was that you behind the thing? 6 portions. Was that you, that big guy?
Yeah, that was me in the big fat suit, yeah.
And was that all CGI or was that just you?
They CGI'd my face a little bit just to make me look less human, but it was a big suit, and he was called Unkar Plutt, and he owned the Millennium Falcon, which is like, I was very happy the fact that I have now owned the Millennium Falcon and been the engineer on the Starship Enterprise.
I know, it's so insane.
A
That's
personal
insane.
triumph.
But wait, so like growing up and like seeing, were you a fan and then now you're in it and you're around Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford? I mean, were you like...
Yeah, it was extraordinary. I mean, that set as well of The Force Awakens, because it felt very much like the first sort of, the first Star Wars, the Star Wars I grew up loving. And to be around those guys, I was on set the day when Harrison Ford and Han and Chewie came onto the Millennium Falcon again for the first
Crazy.
time.
I cried. I cried like a child. Yeah.
And then I had I've told this story before, but it's a good story. It's worth telling. I had a massive crush on Carrie Fisher when I was a kid. I mean, she was the first romantic love that I remember feeling, and I would kiss her picture before I went to sleep, and I was just so in love with her. This is pre-Return of the Jedi, before even,
Well, you had a poster and you'd make out with a poster or something?
I kind of kissed it quite sort of coyly, because I was 7, 8, I think I was when I saw Star Wars. It didn't get to the UK till 1978. So I'm on set with her, and we're walking around the set of the...
Just look at Will's face, just trying to come up with what would the poster that Sean
Oh
was...
my! Sean? No.
Yeah, just Sean.
Lightsabers.
We were walking around the set of the Resistance base, arm in arm, and I was kind of chatting with her and stuff, and I stopped and I looked at her in her eyes, and I said, you know, and the thing was, it was the same fucking eyes. It was the same. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but it was her eyes, the eyes that I had just dreamed of ever looking into as a kid.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I've always loved you, don't you?
Oh, God.
And she grabbed my hand and she looked at my wedding ring and she went, fuck you.
Nice.
Really? She's so funny.
She was the best.
She said, you know, the one thing she said to me when I first met her years and years and years and years ago, I never met her in my whole life, was sitting right next to her at this dinner. And she goes, you know, Han Solo and I were fucking the whole time. And I was like, what? It completely shattered like everything.
There's that roast she did. I think it's a roast of Harrison Ford or something, but she starts talking and she starts talking about how nervous Harrison Ford looks because he doesn't know what she's going to say because obviously, you know, shit happened.
Right.
Wait, really?
Okay,
Hang
so
on a
wait.
second.
So there you are. So now it was Force Awakens. Is that what you're talking about?
That was what I was in. Yeah,
Yeah, Force Awakens. Because that was like 30 years after the Battle of Endor, right? And
Fuck you, Will.
No, hang on. So they're on the. I'm just trying to think because there's that pilot. What's his name? Poe Dameron, and he's on the desert planet of Jakku.
Are you looking at Wikipedia?
Yes,
No,
he is.
what?
Yes, he is. Moron. Oh, this is such
I can't believe they were on Jakku that whole time. That guy.
By the way, did you notice? Did you notice that some people say in that movie, some people say Jakku and other people say Jakku?
Of course, I fucking noticed
Jakku,
it,
yeah.
dude.
It's Jakku.
Of course.
It's Jakku, right?
It's a double K. Come
Of
on.
course I noticed it. And then I went and I bought a rope and I bought a chair and I was like, what would be a good spot for this? Fucking hell.
Okay, so but wait.
I say that with love. You know that I love.
So sometimes, so after the Star Wars or one of the 27 Star Treks, whatever,
Yeah.
you said I read that you went on vacation and you said you told your agent I don't want anybody to bother me. No, I don't want any phone calls. Only if it's Steven Spielberg. Yeah. And then Steven Spielberg actually fucking calls you and tells you what.
Oh my God.
He phoned and said, will you come and be in Ready Player One?
Yes, I love that movie too.
And which is obviously an incredible call to get. And we'd work with him, you know, because he does a little cameo in Paul as well. So I'd worked with him on Tintin, and then he came in and did his little bit in Paul, and then I got to do Ready Player One, and to work with him is a dream. You know, he's just the most extraordinary.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, he's everything that I loved about cinema as a kid and as an adult, and he's very willing to sort of chat about his career and stuff. He's really, really.
I love that.
Without crowing, you know, he'll just tell you stories about Jaws and Close Encounters, and it's just it's such a privilege, you know.
He was at Sean's opening night.
Oh, did he go see your play?
Yeah, he's an investor
such
in
a
it.
nice fella.
Oh wow.
I know.
Has he been on the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last
Great.
year.
Super nice.
Wait, so Ready Player One. So then you talked a little bit about the English. You talked about a little bit like American humor versus English humor, and like how something about like how we always say "just kidding" or something, but Americans like
Yeah. Well, that's sort of there's a weird thing, and it comes from a lot of sort of snobbishness in British comedy circles sometimes, and that you hear, Americans, they don't do irony. And it's such a bullshit statement because Americans do some of the greatest irony ever. You guys just don't use it so much socially. Present company accepted. Jason particularly, because you got a British mom, right? So you're just drier than
Right.
many a desert.
he is.
And
He's so
I'm
funny.
usually grumpy, so it's kind of a double negative.
So you're virtually
called
British.
Very hungry. He's hungry. He's so hungry.
But because British people are very ashamed of their emotions, they just wrap everything in sarcasm and irony, socially, you know. But I think American people generally are just a little less uptight. And so if they do say something dry, they'll qualify it as just kidding, just in case that person thinks that they were being serious, which is fair enough.
Right.
But, you know, you only have to watch. I mean, Arrested is a great example of a brilliantly dry comedy show. You know, I actually started showing my 14-year-old daughter the show the other day, which was great because it meant I could sort of go back to the beginning. And it's such a good example of like dry American humor at its best.
Yeah. I love
Well,
that.
it pales in comparison to all the Monty Python stuff. I mean, the British Office. I mean, that whole style of not winking and just playing everything as a drama. But a deeply flawed character in a drama. Then you've got real good humor. Yeah.
Wait, so if another Mission Impossible coming out soon on July 12th.
Didn't you guys just do 2 in a row?
Yeah. Are you filming the second part
We're
now?
in the midst of doing 2 in a row.
Oh my God.
We've stopped filming now so they can finish Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then we go out on a big press tour over the summer. We'll be in New York. Free tickets to your show, please, Sean.
The Belasco
Yes,
Theater.
of course.
then-
Anytime you want.
The Belasco at the Tabasco Theater.
Tabasco Theater. It's hot as hell in
Big
there.
fan.
Spicy shows.
Fan of the show. And then we go back to shooting in August, and then we complete Part 2, which will be out next year. And it's been we started shooting this one in 2020.
No
in
way.
September
Wow.
of 2020.
Wow.
And it's taken us 3 years to shoot this movie.
Wow, that's
Wow,
crazy.
right in the thick of the hoax.
I mean, we kind of...
Pandemic. What did I say?
You said hoax, yeah.
I mean, Simon, you haven't stopped making great stuff
I know.
for
I know.
like 20 years.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
I want to get to that. Like, do you geek out like I would if I were you when you get the scripts that you get or you produce or make? Like, are you a fan of the genre like I am? And you know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, this is so cool.
I think I am, but I feel like I've aged out a little bit of stuff that I've not kind of kept up with all the new sort of Star Wars TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it's not because I'm sure
I
they're
have.
brilliant
I
and
can
stuff,
catch you up. Just call me. I'll catch you
Oh, really?
up. Yeah, I'll
I'll
do
give
my
you a
own.
ring afterwards.
Wait, yeah, Simon, what kind of stuff are you watching comedy-wise? Because I'm trying to think if I watch any comedies, really. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's kind of...
I started watching the show last night. I think you should leave
Oh, yeah.
on
Oh.
Netflix.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm writing
Is
these
it?
down.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
I
really
think
good.
you should
I just
leave.
rewatched it with somebody because the episodes are like sort of 16 minutes long. They're not that long. And I just got, when we were in Atlanta, I got Eli to go through and I watched them all again with him, and they were just brilliant.
Yeah,
Really
it's
brilliant.
really strange but hilarious in the way that like Python used to be, you know, like sort of slightly baffling.
It's a
You're
British
not
show?
sure exactly why you're
No, he's
laughing.
American. He shot here. Tim Robinson is a brilliant guy. And as you know, the very nature of, we had a lot of people from SNL on here over the last few years. The nature of sketch comedy is that it's really inconsistent. It's so hard to, from sketch to always be strong or always be good. And that show, I think you should leave. Those first 6 episodes
Oh, you told me
are
about that, Will.
consistently good. Every sketch
I
to
did
sketch.
watch it. Yeah,
really, really
it is
good.
funny. That was a while ago.
Yeah, brilliant.
Simon, wait, I'm sorry. This is the last Mission Impossible question just because I'm upset. Do you get to, because your character's so funny and like it's so natural that do you get to write your own lines? Like, are they cool with that? Because it sounds like.
Not really. I mean, we don't really have a script. It's a very strange way of working.
Really?
We kind of make it up as we go along.
I don't believe it.
But
That's crazy.
it's true. I have not ever read a script for the film I've just made.
What?
Tom and McHugh, Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, they know the story. They know the big set pieces. They know that those set pieces get shot first usually. And then Chris McQuarrie, who is a genius at sort of like solving problems, he will come up with the connective tissue, sort of grow the story kind of organically as we
Yeah, but
go.
they're so
and we'll get the
complex.
pages. I know, but we get pages on the morning of shooting stuff. And I have to say, where have I been in the previous scene and where am I going? And it can be frustrating, but it sort of works. And occasionally I get to kind of ad-lib silly stuff, like when we were shooting a scene for Fallout when I was sort of guiding. I'm basically like a GPS. That's my job in Mission Impossible. I just read out directions for where Tom Cruise needs to go. And all the stuff about having the map upside down and the 3D thing, that was all kind of thrown in the moment.
Oh,
But
really?
McHugh is a brilliant writer, you know. He's an Oscar-winning writer. He wrote The Usual Suspects. And
What an incredible director.
he just somehow thrives in that situation.
Yeah.
Incredible. I
amazing.
I am so in love with those Mission Impossible movies. All of them.
Yeah, they're always great.
they're so good.
And you're always great in them. I mean,
yeah, and it's so hard. You're so great in them, and it's hard to believe that something that has that kind of scope, as Jason said, that's so good and complex and stuff that you guys would sort of improvise in that way or not really have a full understanding to me on something so big. I don't know. I tell you where that wouldn't wash is on the oceanic planet of Arnett. No way.
You can close the wiki window.
No, you wouldn't be able to get away with
just
it.
shut that window
Nice
down.
callback.
Well, on that note,
Beautifully done.
Simon, you are like a dream. We've
So
taken
good
too
to
much
see
of
you
your
again.
time. This is so nice
I
to
know,
show
guys.
up.
I feel like we just got started. Let's keep going.
I don't know. It's
We
been
could do
lovely.
a two-parter.
I know.
Will you say hi to Nick Frost, please?
I will. Get him on. Get Edgar on.
And say
you know
hi to
who,
Edgar,
who
too.
put me onto this podcast was Naira Park, who you know, Jason.
Oh,
she
yeah.
produced
Oh, please
Paul
tell her
and
hi, too.
Yeah.
she's Edgar and my producer. She's done everything we've ever done. And last year she said, "Oh, you listen to SmartLess, right?" And I said, "No." And so I had the whole of the back catalogue to sort of like, which I literally have been like every time I go to the gym or every time I go for a drive. It's just become like the soundtrack. And then like, however, recently. The idea of actually doing it came up, and man, it's just so. I love you guys. I think you're so amazing.
If you've
Likewise.
ever got any ideas of people we should have on the show, please let us know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, I'll send you some British people, and you can
Please.
do your
Please.
It's great to see you, man.
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
It's so nice to meet you, Simon, and such a fan.
You too, Sean. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm serious about coming to see Goodnight Oscar. I'd love to come see it if I can.
Anytime.
Don't miss that. Yeah, you'll be blown away.
Simon, we love
Simon.
Anyway. Okay.
We
Do
love
I just
you.
slam this lid?
you. You slam it
Yeah.
shut.
Slam
Slam
it.
it.
All right.
There
Goodbye,
it is.
pally.
You take care.
All right.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
You
Bye.
too.
Love
Bye.
you, buddy.
Well, that's listen, that is a round peg in a round hole.
Oh, nice.
No,
Yeah.
that peg's no square.
No.
What else?
Those are
Yeah.
really good, actually.
Thanks, man. I'm coming up with a buy as we're talking here.
Are you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking about is this friend of mine. I'm not kidding. This is not getting to a buy. I've been trying to like connect the dots on. I was thinking about Scotty
Yeah.
because we were talking about Scotty,
Yeah, I told him I told him Simon Pegg was going to be on. He freaked out.
and then remind me. I never told you this because this is not a joke. One of my best buddies growing up his name is Scotty Bear, and then I thought about your. I swear to God.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's funny because Scotty's a bear and you like Boney Bear.
Right. So
I like Scotty Bone and Bear.
Yeah.
Anyway, so wait, but Simon Pegg, I've always wanted to meet him. I can't believe you knew him. I didn't know you guys knew him. I knew you worked with him in Paul, Jay,
Yes.
but I didn't know you knew him. He seems really fun.
Jay's
Yeah.
looking up a buy right now.
No,
So don't.
I'm finding that my brain needs to completely shut down and focus on that, and I can't hear you guys right now. as I'm trying to think
JB,
of
how
a buy.
fucking weird is that? So remember, you thought it was a screening of Hot Fuzz, and that I remembered it was a fucking screening of Extract, and I remember going to the restaurant next door with Mike Judge and you and Amy and Simon.
What does that say? Does it say anything? I'm looking for something that might be good for me. Is there something good that I don't remember? It was a screening for me, my movie, that I'm thinking it was for him and his movie. Does that say something nice
That's right.
about me?
No, are you trying to get
Yeah,
like brownie points?
Trying to fill up my own ledger, own side of the ledger.
No, I don't
The
think-
good, no.
You know, when as a kid, I
we go.
used to
Fuck me.
Oh, yeah,
Jesus.
you know, in
This is it.
Star Wars, you know,
This is going to be, by the way, it better be amazing because you are like 0 for 40 right now.
He's already
Oh,
lost.
this is a good one. You know, when I was a kid, I always used to mix up the pronunciation of Luke Skywalker's mentor. I didn't know. I didn't think it was Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No, that's no
I
way.
thought it was
No way. I can't allow it.
Obi. I
No.
thought it was Obi-Wan.
Oh, buy one.
Kenobi.
I'll buy one Kenobi and 2 malts.
What?
Sean.
Oh, bye.
Oh, buy one
Oh,
Kenobi
bye. One
No.
Kenobi.
and 2 malts.
Nah.
Was that our out?
No,
No.
no.
Smart. Less. Smart. Less.
SmartLess is 100% organic and artisanally handcrafted by Bennett Barbaco, Michael Grant Terry, and Rob Armjarf.
Smart. Less.